Before the world knew her as Dr. Marsha Linehan, the founder of Dialectical Behavior Therapy, she was a young woman trapped in her own mind, struggling with emotions that felt impossible to survive. She wasn't a psychologist, a teacher, or a name in textbooks. She was simply a patient, living in psychiatric hospitals, haunted by thoughts of self-harm and suicide. At just 18, Marsha was admitted to the Institute of Living, one of the oldest psychiatric institutions in the United States, where she would spend 2.5 years confined within its walls. During that time, she endured treatments that were often harsh and isolating, including heavy sedation and electroconvulsive therapy. Labeled with schizophrenia, though later understood to have borderline personality disorder, she felt invisible, misunderstood, and convinced that something inside her was fundamentally broken. Her pain was not something others could see, yet it consumed every part of her being. In her journal, she wrote simple, haunting words, "Help me. I am in hell." It was not poetry. It was survival, a raw cry from someone who wanted to live but did not yet know how. Despite the darkness, a spark remained within her, a quiet, persistent will that refused to let her suffering define her entire existence. That spark would eventually ignite a revolution in mental health, but at the time it was nothing more than a fragile thread of hope. After her release, Marsha carried no degrees, no license, no plan for her future. What she carried instead was a vow, a determination that she would find a way out of her own hell and then return to help others escape theirs. Standing alone one night in a quiet chapel, she made a promise to herself, "I will find a way out of hell, and then I'll go back and get others out too." This vow became the foundation of her life's work, a guiding principle that would shape the therapy she would later develop. The years that followed were not easy. Though she pursued higher education, earning degrees in psychology, and eventually a PhD, the inner storm did not immediately subside. She was still haunted by emotional chaos, the same intense feelings that had led her into hospitalization. Logic and knowledge alone could not soothe her mind. She needed something deeper. In her search, she discovered Zen meditation and spirituality, practices that taught her presence, mindfulness, and the simple act of sitting with reality as it is. Through Zen, she began to understand a critical truth. Suffering often exists because we fight against reality. Accepting what is, rather than constantly resisting, became the first step toward true healing. From this understanding, Marsha developed her dialectical worldview, the ability to hold two truths at once, that we are doing the best we can and that we must also strive to improve. Where many see conflict between acceptance and change, she saw a path to balance, a middle way between extremes. This insight became the foundation for dialectical behavior therapy. When she began working with patients struggling with chronic suicidal thoughts, self-harm, and emotional intensity, she realized that traditional therapy often failed because it emphasized either change or acceptance, but rarely both. She created DBT to integrate these opposing forces, teaching patients to accept themselves while simultaneously developing the skills to improve their lives. DBT was more than a therapy. It was a philosophy of living. It honored emotions instead of suppressing them, taught mindfulness and distress tolerance, and encouraged people to engage with life rather than withdraw. Its success came not from abstract theory, but from lived experience. Marsha had endured the same despair her patients faced, and her own survival informed every principle, every skill, every strategy she taught. Decades later, in 2011, she publicly revealed her history of suicidality. Standing before hundreds of professionals, she admitted, "I built a life worth living, and if I can do it, so can you." That confession did more than inspire. It humanized her work, proving that even those who have been closest to despair can become guides, healers, and pioneers. Marsha Linehan's story is not one of perfection, but of resilience. It is a reminder that true healing emerges not from escaping pain, but from facing it fully, learning from it, and using it to illuminate a path for others. Her life demonstrates that suffering can be transformed into purpose, that despair can become compassion, and that the very pain that threatens to destroy us can, in time, be the foundation of extraordinary change. As Marsha Linehan moved deeper into her studies and professional work, she began to see patterns, both in herself and in the countless patients she worked with. She noticed that people who experienced severe emotional dysregulation often shared a common experience: chronic invalidation. From childhood, they had been told their feelings were wrong, too much, or unimportant. Their natural emotional responses were met with judgment, punishment, or neglect, leaving them feeling isolated and defective. Marsha understood this firsthand. She had lived it. She knew that when emotions are constantly dismissed, people learn to distrust themselves, to doubt the validity of their own experience, and often to internalize the belief that they are fundamentally flawed. This realization became central to the creation of DBT. Unlike traditional therapy, which often tried to correct patients by pushing them to conform to external norms or suppress their emotions, Marsha's approach honored the intensity and validity of human experience. She taught that emotions are neither good nor bad. They simply exist, and they contain important information about our needs, boundaries, and values. She emphasized that learning to tolerate, regulate, and understand these emotions is a skill that can be developed, just like learning to ride a bicycle or play an instrument. No one is born knowing how to navigate the turbulence of the mind, and no one should be shamed for not knowing. Marsha's personal history gave her DBT a unique depth and authenticity. She had endured the extreme of emotional pain, survived attempts at self-destruction, and emerged on the other side. She did not preach from theory alone. She taught from lived experience. Every module, every exercise, every principle was infused with the knowledge that the human heart can endure and that the human spirit can transform. She recognized that teaching skills was not enough without validating experience. People need to feel understood before they can change, and DBT's validation strategies became a cornerstone of her therapy. One of the most revolutionary aspects of DBT was its emphasis on balancing acceptance with change. Traditional therapies often focused on either one or the other. Patients were asked to accept themselves exactly as they were, or to strive for improvement without acknowledging the reality of their pain. Marsha saw that this dichotomy was destructive. Instead, she proposed a dialectical approach where acceptance and change coexist. Patients learn to say, "I am doing the best I can, and I can still improve." This principle, though deceptively simple, became the lifeline for countless people struggling with borderline personality disorder, chronic suicidality, and intense emotional suffering. Her clients began to thrive, people who had been hospitalized repeatedly, people who had been told they were untreatable, people who had lost hope. DBT gave them a framework to rebuild their lives. Skills such as mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotional regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness became tools not just for survival, but for growth. People learned to tolerate pain without acting destructively, to identify and manage emotions rather than be consumed by them, and to communicate their needs effectively without fear or aggression. Marsha had transformed her personal suffering into a practical guide for human resilience. Yet even as DBT gained recognition in the clinical world, Marsha continued to confront her own vulnerabilities. She never claimed to be free of struggle. In interviews, she described ongoing challenges with emotion and mindfulness, emphasizing that her methods were tools to live with life's difficulties, not guarantees of perfection. Her openness about her history of suicidality and her ongoing self-awareness made her work profoundly relatable. People didn't just learn DBT skills. They witnessed someone who had walked through despair and emerged with empathy, wisdom, and actionable guidance. In revealing her personal journey, Marsha shattered stigma. She showed that mental illness is not a mark of moral failure, weakness, or inadequacy. It is part of the human experience, and recovery is not only possible, it can become a source of profound insight and contribution. Her life teaches that resilience is born in the crucible of suffering, and that the very pain we fear can, if faced courageously, become the source of healing for ourselves and others. Marsha's story also highlights the importance of hope. In the darkest moments, when she was convinced that life had no meaning, she made a choice: to survive, to learn, to transform. That choice, seemingly small at the time, rippled outward to touch the lives of millions. Her journey reminds us that hope is not naive optimism. It is a deliberate, courageous act to keep moving forward, even when the path is uncertain. Her work continues to influence modern therapy, not just through the techniques of DBT, but through a radical model of empathy, validation, and lived experience. Students, clinicians, and patients alike are inspired by the notion that one can emerge from suffering to create something that helps others heal. In a world where despair often feels overwhelming, Marsha Linehan's life is a testament to the enduring human capacity to endure, adapt, and transform pain into purpose. Marsha Linehan's life also reveals a fundamental truth about healing. It is rarely linear. Progress is not a straight path from despair to joy. It is a winding journey filled with setbacks, moments of doubt, and repeated attempts to rise after falling. Even after creating DBT and seeing the lives of her clients transform, she faced moments of struggle, reminders that vulnerability is an ongoing process. Yet it was precisely this human imperfection that gave her work authenticity. People could see themselves in her story. They weren't learning from someone who had never suffered, but from someone who had confronted the depths of pain and found a way through. Her approach emphasized that the path to emotional regulation begins with self-validation. Marsha understood from her own experience that if a person's emotions are constantly dismissed or punished, the individual learns to mistrust themselves. DBT teaches people to first acknowledge their feelings as real and legitimate, creating a foundation of trust within oneself. Only then can change occur. This principle, rooted in her lived reality, set DBT apart from other therapies of the time, which often prioritized behavioral compliance or intellectual insight over emotional acceptance. Marsha also recognized the importance of skills as survival tools. She often said that teaching clients skills was akin to giving them a life raft while navigating a stormy sea. Mindfulness, distress tolerance, emotion regulation, and interpersonal effectiveness were not abstract concepts. They were practical, step-by-step strategies to survive crises, manage intense feelings, and maintain connections with others. She designed exercises, homework, and real-life practice to ensure that these skills were deeply integrated into daily living rather than confined to therapy sessions. What made DBT revolutionary, however, was not just the skills themselves, but the dialectical philosophy underpinning them. Life is rarely black and white, and Marsha understood that humans are not either perfectly rational or purely emotional. Her work emphasized the integration of opposites, acceptance and change, vulnerability and strength, emotion and reason. Through this framework, individuals learn to navigate contradictions in themselves and in the world, finding balance instead of striving for impossible perfection. Marsha's personal journey also shaped the way she approached crises. Having once been suicidal herself, she knew the importance of creating interventions that were both compassionate and structured. Her approach recognized the urgency of preventing harm while nurturing growth. This balance, born from lived experience, helped countless patients feel safe while being challenged to engage with life more fully. The result was a therapy that didn't just aim to reduce symptoms, it aimed to build a life worth living, even for those who once felt hopeless. Over the decades, the impact of DBT has been profound. Hospitals, clinics, and therapy centers across the globe have adopted its principles. Patients once considered untreatable have learned to regulate emotions, reduce self-harm, and cultivate meaningful relationships. Families have found guidance in understanding loved ones who once seemed impossible to reach, and clinicians have gained a framework that is both scientifically validated and profoundly human, rooted in empathy, structure, and lived wisdom. Yet, beyond the clinical success, Marsha's story resonates because it is deeply human. It is a story of struggle, resilience, and transformation. It reminds us that suffering, even at its most intense, can be a teacher. That the feelings we fear, the thoughts we hide, and the despair we experience do not define the limits of our lives. Instead, they can become the very foundation from which purpose, empathy, and healing emerge. Her life also highlights the importance of courage and vulnerability. Marsha could have remained silent about her past. She could have built her career without revealing the depths of her own struggles. Yet she chose honesty, modeling a profound truth. Sharing our stories of suffering does not weaken us, it empowers others. Her openness created a ripple effect, inspiring not just patients, but clinicians, students, and anyone struggling with emotional pain. Marsha's legacy is therefore twofold. She created a therapy that transforms lives, and she embodied the possibility of healing from the darkest despair. Her story is a testament to the human capacity for resilience, reminding us that even when life feels unbearable, growth, purpose, and joy are possible. She teaches that the path to healing is not the absence of struggle, but the courage to face it, understand it, and use it to guide others. Marsha Linehan's story also underscores a crucial principle that extends beyond therapy itself. Healing is as much about the journey as the destination. She often emphasized that recovery is not linear and that setbacks are not failures, they are part of the process. Her own life was proof of this truth. She endured repeated hospitalizations, emotional breakdowns, and periods of profound despair. Yet she persisted, not by denying her pain, but by engaging with it intentionally, thoughtfully, and compassionately. This perspective became central to DBT, which teaches individuals to navigate emotional storms without destroying themselves or their relationships. Her personal history of intense emotional dysregulation gave her a unique lens for understanding her patients. Marsha knew what it was like to feel every emotion with overwhelming intensity, to be swept away by anger, sadness, fear, or shame. She also knew the paralyzing isolation that comes when others invalidate these emotions, dismissing them as too much or unreasonable. From this understanding, she developed validation strategies that were revolutionary in their simplicity and depth. Acknowledge, empathize, and communicate that the patient's experience is understandable, even if their behavior must be addressed. This dual focus, validation coupled with skills training, became the hallmark of DBT. Marsha's integration of mindfulness was another pivotal element of her approach. Mindfulness, rooted in her study of Zen practices, is the art of observing one's thoughts and feelings without judgment. She taught that being present with one's emotions rather than fighting them or being consumed by them is a radical act of self-compassion. Through mindfulness, individuals learn to witness their inner experiences as passing phenomena, not as definitions of who they are. Marsha understood from her own suffering that this skill could literally save lives, giving individuals a way to step back from emotional overwhelm and respond rather than react. Beyond mindfulness, DBT emphasizes distress tolerance, the ability to endure pain without resorting to destructive behaviors. Marsha recognized that in moments of crisis, patients need practical tools to survive the intensity of their feelings. These tools range from self-soothing exercises to crisis planning, teaching individuals that they can withstand pain without harming themselves or losing control. This approach mirrors her own journey. She had learned, often through trial and error, that endurance, structure, and small coping strategies could make the difference between despair and survival. Another cornerstone of her work is emotional regulation. Marsha realized that emotions are not enemies to be suppressed, but signals to be understood and managed. DBT teaches clients to identify emotions, understand their origins, and take deliberate steps to influence their intensity and expression. Marsha's insight was that emotional skills could be learned and practiced, just like any other skill. Her personal mastery over her emotional landscape lent credibility and authenticity to these teachings, as she had lived through the very chaos she sought to alleviate in others. Interpersonal effectiveness, another essential DBT module, reflects Marsha's recognition that humans are inherently social creatures. She understood that relationships are often the source of both our greatest joy and our deepest suffering. People with high emotional sensitivity often struggle to assert themselves, maintain boundaries, or navigate conflict without intense distress. Marsha's approach teaches skills to communicate clearly, maintain self-respect, and build healthier connections, all while honoring the emotions that might otherwise sabotage interactions. In this way, DBT is not just about individual healing. It is about restoring people to their communities, families, and workplaces. Marsha Linehan's story also challenges the stigma surrounding mental illness. Her public acknowledgement of her past suicidality transformed perceptions in the mental health field. It showed that even those who have experienced extreme despair are capable of contributing to the well-being of others. Her life affirms a profound truth: healing does not require perfection. One does not need to be free of struggle to guide, teach, or inspire. In fact, lived experience often enhances one's ability to connect, empathize, and innovate. Ultimately, Marsha's journey teaches that pain, when approached with courage, can be a source of transformation. She turned her suffering into a therapy that saves lives, a philosophy that restores dignity, and a story that inspires hope. DBT is more than a collection of skills. It is a roadmap for navigating the human experience, grounded in the reality that life is often messy, unpredictable, and painful, but also capable of beauty, growth, and meaning. Her legacy endures because she not only developed a methodology that works, but because she embodied the very principles she taught. She validated herself, confronted despair, practiced mindfulness, and committed to the ongoing work of living fully. For anyone watching her story, the message is clear: your past does not determine your future, and your pain can become the foundation for profound healing, not just for yourself, but for countless others. Marsha Linehan's story is also a lesson in the transformative power of purpose. When she first left the hospital, she could have chosen any path: one of retreat, of hiding from the world that had hurt her, or of simply surviving day by day. But she chose differently. She chose to take her suffering and turn it into a mission, to help others navigate the same storms she had survived. This choice was not made lightly. It required courage, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to growth. It required a willingness to confront the very experiences she had once tried to escape. Her purpose became both a compass and a source of strength, guiding her through the challenges of her own emotional intensity, while allowing her to illuminate a path for others. In creating Dialectical Behavior Therapy, Marsha did not simply compile a set of techniques. She weaved together philosophy, science, and lived experience. DBT integrates mindfulness from Zen, behavioral principles from psychology, and a deep understanding of the human capacity for both suffering and resilience. The therapy reflects her insight that humans are not broken machines to be fixed, but dynamic, emotional beings capable of profound change when given the right tools and validation. Her work demonstrated that therapy is not just about symptom reduction. It is about teaching people to live fully, intentionally, and with dignity, even in the presence of life's inevitable hardships. Her innovations in therapy were revolutionary because they honored both sides of the human experience: the need for acceptance and the need for change. Marsha recognized that if patients only experienced validation without guidance for change, they could remain trapped in cycles of self-doubt and destructive behaviors. Conversely, if they were pushed toward change without validation, they often felt shamed, misunderstood, or hopeless. By creating a dialectical balance, she gave people a path to rebuild their lives without denying their pain. This approach mirrors her own life. She did not erase the past, suppress her feelings, or pretend that she had never suffered. Instead, she integrated her experience into a model that fosters resilience and growth. Her story also emphasizes the role of courage in healing. For Marsha, courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite fear. Every step she took, pursuing higher education, researching therapy techniques, working with clients, and ultimately revealing her own history of suicidality, was an act of courage. Her vulnerability became a source of power, showing others that courage and authenticity are inseparable. It is one thing to survive pain. It is another to use that pain to create something that heals others. Marsha exemplified both. Marsha's work has had profound ripple effects. Through DBT, she has reached individuals who were once considered untreatable. Patients who struggled with borderline personality disorder, chronic suicidality, or self-harm have learned to navigate their emotional worlds with new skills, confidence, and self-compassion. Families have learned how to validate loved ones while maintaining healthy boundaries. Clinicians have been given a methodology that balances structure with empathy, science with humanity. Her impact is measurable, but it is also immeasurable in the lives touched quietly, the hope restored, and the suffering alleviated. One of the most inspiring aspects of her journey is the way she bridged personal experience and professional expertise. Many therapists struggle to connect authentically with clients who are in crisis. Marsha's history of intense emotional pain allowed her to meet her clients not just as a professional, but as someone who truly understood the depth of their suffering. This connection, rooted in empathy, validation, and lived knowledge, made DBT not just effective, but transformative. It is a model that teaches that humanity and skill are inseparable in the process of healing. Her story is a reminder that the darkest moments in life do not define our potential. The young woman who once felt trapped in psychiatric wards, who once believed that life was unbearable, became a pioneer whose work now saves lives worldwide. She transformed despair into purpose, isolation into connection, and suffering into insight. Marsha Linehan's journey is a testament to the fact that even when the world tells us we are too much, too broken, or too flawed, we can learn to accept, endure, and create meaning from our experiences. Even now, her story resonates deeply because it is authentic, vulnerable, and universal. Many people watch her journey and see reflections of their own struggles, the fear, the isolation, the overwhelming intensity of emotions. Yet by witnessing her resilience, they also see possibility. Healing is not a fantasy. It is a deliberate process, built one mindful, validated, and courageous step at a time. Marsha teaches that even in the face of immense suffering, it is possible to rise, to rebuild, and to illuminate the path for others. Marsha Linehan's journey also demonstrates the transformative power of empathy. Having experienced profound invalidation herself, she understood that the first step toward healing is to feel seen, heard, and understood. DBT emphasizes validation not as mere reassurance, but as a structured process to communicate understanding, respect, and acknowledgement of a person's internal experience. For individuals who have felt repeatedly dismissed or judged, this validation can be profoundly healing. It creates a safe space where emotions are not threats, but valuable signals guiding self-understanding and growth. Marsha knew that without this foundation, no therapy could reach its full potential. Her story illustrates that healing is an active process. It requires courage, consistency, and deliberate action. Through DBT, Marsha taught clients how to engage with their emotions without being overwhelmed, how to build resilience in the face of crisis, and how to navigate interpersonal relationships without resorting to destructive patterns. These skills are practical, actionable, and life-changing, precisely because they were born from someone who had survived the extremes of emotional pain. Her teachings show that the ability to endure, regulate, and grow does not come from talent or innate strength, but from intentional practice, patience, and guidance. A particularly powerful element of her work is how it addresses the human tendency toward black and white thinking. Individuals with intense emotional sensitivity often perceive the world in extremes: complete rejection or total acceptance, success or failure, love or abandonment. Marsha understood that such dichotomous thinking can fuel despair, self-harm, and emotional instability. DBT's dialectical framework teaches that life is rarely absolute and that we can hold conflicting truths simultaneously. For example, one can be doing their best while still striving to improve, or feel intense sadness while also being capable of joy. This perspective, which she practiced in her own life, allows individuals to navigate complexity without being overwhelmed. Marsha's integration of mindfulness was another cornerstone of her approach. Mindfulness, drawn from her study of Zen, teaches awareness and non-judgmental observation of thoughts and feelings. It allows people to pause, reflect, and respond consciously rather than reacting impulsively. For someone like Marsha, who had once been consumed by emotional storms, mindfulness was not abstract. It was a lifeline. By embedding this practice into DBT, she gave clients a tool to engage fully with the present moment, even amid chaos. Equally important is the emphasis on distress tolerance. Life inevitably brings crises and moments of intense suffering. Marsha recognized that for people prone to self-destructive behaviors, these moments could be deadly. DBT teaches strategies to survive these storms without causing harm, to endure without surrendering to despair. These skills, often simple in principle but challenging in execution, are designed to be practiced repeatedly until they become reliable tools. In doing so, individuals learn that intense emotions, while uncomfortable, do not have to dictate actions or define identity. Her work on emotional regulation further illustrates her genius. Rather than treating emotions as obstacles, DBT teaches that emotions are signals carrying important information about needs, values, and boundaries. Marsha's methods help individuals identify, understand, and modulate emotional responses in ways that reduce suffering and increase adaptive functioning. These insights, grounded in both research and lived experience, make DBT uniquely effective for those whose emotional intensity had previously made them feel helpless or dangerous to themselves. Interpersonal effectiveness, another critical module, reflects her recognition that humans are inherently social beings. The ability to communicate clearly, maintain boundaries, and engage in healthy relationships is vital for mental health. Marsha understood that without these skills, emotional intensity could lead to isolation, conflict, or repeated cycles of harm. By teaching clients how to assert themselves while respecting others, she empowered them to reconnect with the world around them, turning social interaction into a source of support rather than a trigger for despair. Marsha's story is ultimately one of hope transformed into action. Her life proves that even when one has experienced the depths of hopelessness, it is possible to build a life that is not only survivable, but meaningful. By channeling her suffering into the creation of DBT, she has offered countless individuals a path to safety, growth, and self-discovery. Her journey is a testament to the idea that our most painful experiences, when faced with courage and insight, can become the foundation for healing and for helping others. Marsha Linehan's life reminds us that the path to healing is not defined by the absence of suffering, but by the courage to engage with it. She endured experiences that most of us cannot imagine: suicidal despair, institutionalization, and relentless inner turmoil. Yet she transformed that suffering into a legacy that now saves millions of lives. Her work demonstrates that pain, when acknowledged and navigated with skill, can become a source of purpose, connection, and transformation. Through DBT, she gave individuals the tools to survive emotional storms without losing themselves, to validate their feelings without being trapped by them, and to engage in relationships without self-destruction. Every module, every skill, every principle in DBT carries the imprint of her own journey. She did not invent these tools from theory alone. She lived through the very challenges her therapy addresses, and that is what makes it profoundly effective and deeply human. Her story is also a lesson in radical acceptance. Marsha did not deny her struggles, nor did she attempt to erase her past. She accepted it fully, and in doing so, she created something extraordinary. Her life shows that acceptance is not passivity. It is the courage to see reality clearly, to validate one's experience, and then to act with purpose. In embracing her own pain, she found clarity and direction, and she offered the same possibility to others. Marsha Linehan's courage in sharing her history, her acknowledgement of suicidal thoughts, emotional chaos, and deep suffering has broken stigma and inspired hope. She has shown that the greatest experts in healing are often those who have walked through darkness themselves. Her openness and authenticity encourage us to see our own struggles not as shameful failures, but as experiences that can fuel insight, empathy, and growth. The woman who once felt trapped by despair became a pioneer, a healer, and a guide. She turned personal suffering into a therapy that teaches people how to build lives worth living, even in the face of extreme emotional intensity. Her journey teaches that resilience is cultivated, not innate, that transformation emerges from courage and skill, and that even the most profound pain can become a source of hope for others. For anyone watching her story, the message is clear. Your past does not define your future. Your suffering does not have to imprison you. By facing pain with honesty, learning to regulate and understand emotions, and practicing acceptance alongside growth, it is possible to reclaim your life. Marsha's life exemplifies that even in the darkest moments, light is possible, not as a distant dream, but as a real, tangible path forward. Her legacy endures not only in the millions who have benefited from DBT, but in the countless lives she has touched by simply demonstrating that healing is possible, hope is possible, and purpose can be born from suffering. Marsha Linehan's story is a powerful reminder that while the human mind and heart are capable of immense pain, they are equally capable of transformation, empathy, and extraordinary resilience. So if you are struggling, feeling lost, or overwhelmed by your emotions, remember her journey. Remember that even in the depths of despair, it is possible to rise. It is possible to create meaning. It is possible to not just survive, but to live a life worth living, and maybe even, as Marsha did, to guide others toward the same light. Because the woman who once stood on the edge of hopelessness is now a beacon for millions, proving that our deepest suffering can become our greatest gift to the world.